Hello, today is August 27th. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Adam. Welcome to BHS News. Here's Ashley with our first story.
We kicked off the new school year of 2010 and 2011 on August 18th, 2010. Started the day off with a high school assembly introducing all faculty and staff, and the new faculty and staff including lower math teacher Mrs. Moots and librarian Mr. Terry. Then Mr. Wilburn dismissed the students to their classes. At the end of the day, there was an assembly for the boys baseball team for getting second in state. Each baseball player got their individual state trophies. Then they introduced the fall softball team. After the assembly, Mr. Wilburn dismissed everyone early. Another back-to-school activity was the elementary picnic held August 23rd on Monday.
Congratulations to the state runner-up baseball team of 2010.
Now here's Jeremy with this week's sports.
The Brashear Lady Tigers softball team traveled to Scotland County Tuesday for their season opener. Scotland County took a 1-0 lead in the first inning on a pair of singles and an error. They managed to hold on to the lead until the top of the sixth when back-to-back hits brought in a runner to tie the game. Brashear took a 2-1 lead in the top of the seventh on back-to-back hits by Shelby Salter and Abby McKim. Scotland County mounted a rally in the bottom of the seventh, getting 2 runners aboard with 2 outs, but fell short when their lead runner was thrown out at the plate trying to score from second on a single to left field. Shelby Salter had 2 hits for Brashear, with Meredith Thomas, Sierra Hines, Abby McKim, and Ashley Watson also having hits.
Thanks for watching.
Join us again next week.
The elementary has been fundraising and has gotten donations from MFA and Walmart for new playground equipment and are wanting to keep the fundraising going.
Last week, former Brashear student Sergeant Brandon Maggart was killed while serving with the United States Army in Iraq. Wednesday, the Brashear Student Council arranged for a bus to transport students to help line the funeral procession route to honor Sergeant Maggart. Also, Eagle Scout Jay Scudder organized a group of volunteers from Boy Scout Troop 404 to put up the Maple Hills Cemetery flags along the funeral procession route to honor Sergeant Maggart. Visitation was at Travis Noe Funeral Home in Kirksville, Missouri. The funeral was held at the Kirksville Middle School, and burial was at the Jacksonville Veterans Cemetery.
In the softball game, Brashear scored twice in the first inning, 5 times in the second inning, finishing the game early with 8 runs in the third to pick up a 15-0 win over the visiting Linn County Mustangs. Abby McKim had a pair of doubles for Brashear. Katie Watson had 3 singles. Meredith Thomas, Sierra Hines, Shelby Salter, Ashley Watson, Sydney Slavin, and Kristen Love also had hits. Cammie Ward and Hannah Hoskins had hits for Linn County. Sierra Hines was the winning pitcher, striking out 4, and Cammie Ward took the loss for Linn County.
The Tiger baseball team got on board first with the run in the bottom of the first, but Linn County answered with a pair in the top of the second, and the seesaw battle was on. Brashear put up another 5 runs in the second, featuring home runs by Adam Songer, Hayden Hausman, and Nick Bradshaw. Linn County tied the game at 6-6 with 4 runs in the top of the third, but Brashear pulled ahead 7-6 in the bottom of the third. The score stood tied 8-8 after the fourth, but Linn County outscored Brashear 4-1 in the late innings to take a 12-9 win. Adam Songer, Hayden Hausman, Hayden Coyne, Cody Snelling, Nick Thomas, Jay Scudder, and Nick Bradshaw had hits for Brashear. Lake Woodside had a home run for Lynn County, and Jonathan Holstetter. Mark Jungles, Josh Allen, and Ty Stillwell also had hits. Hayden Coyne got the start of Brashear with Cody Snelling pitching in relief. Jonathan Holstetter and Josh Allen pitched for Lynn County.
In their Atlanta tournament first round game, Brashear faced Novinger. Novinger got on the scoreboard with a run in the second, but Brashear scored runs in the third and fourth inning to take a 2-1 lead. Novinger rallied for 5 runs in the bottom of the 6th, and although Brashear scored 3 in the top of the 7th, it wasn't enough, and Novinger won 6-5. Meredith Thomas, Katie Watson, and Kristen Love had hits for Brashear. Gunnels, Jake Hughes, Smith, and Eads had hits for Novinger. Kristen Love pitched for Brashear, and Jake Hughes and Hubbard pitched for Novinger. In the third place game, it was all Brashear as they scored 3 in the first and 3 in the second on their way to an 18-2 win over Atlanta. Kristen Love and Alexa Acton pitched for Brashear, and Harpster pitched for Atlanta.
The Lady Tigers wasted no time getting on the scoreboard with Meredith Thomas leading off with a double, followed by Sierra Hines' single. After a pair of strikeouts, Kristen Love reached on an error driving Thomas in to give Brashear a 1-0 lead. The lead was short-lived as Knox answered with a run in the bottom of the first, making the score 1-1. The next several innings was a defense battle as both teams managed to get runners on base but couldn't bring them in. Knox finally broke through with a pair of runs in the 5th to take a 3-1 lead, which led up to the win. Meredith Thomas and Sierra Hines each had 2 hits for Brashear, with Ashley Watson having a hit. Sierra Hines took the loss for Brashear.
Early on in the school year, we elected student council members. After the members were elected, then junior and seniors could run for student council, vice president, and president. Before any junior or senior could run, they had to have the students sign a petition. After finalized, the candidates could begin their campaigning for vice president or president. The candidates for vice president were Katie Smith, Taryn Treasure, and Cindy Slavin. For president, Stephanie Elsie and Abby McCann. They tried to persuade people with candy, soda, and even cookies. On Tuesday morning, the assembly was held for the candidates to read their speeches for why they would make a good vice president or president for our school. Later in the day, the election went on, voting and tallying most of the morning. By the middle of the day, we found out that our new vice president was Cindy Slavin and president Stephanie Elsie.
Brashear traveled to La Plata Friday night for a varsity JV baseball doubleheader. Things looked good for Brashear at the start of the game as Adam Songer drew a lead-off walk. Things went downhill from there as Nick Thomas popped out and Songer was doubled off, and the Tigers came away scoreless in the first. Meanwhile, La Plata scored 3 runs in the bottom of the first and another 2 in the second. Brashear looked to score again in the fourth as Nick Thomas reached on an error and Jay Scudder drew a 2-out walk, but 3 strikeouts ruined the rally, and Brashear remained scoreless. La Plata put the 5-inning game away in the fourth as they scored 5 more to take the 10-0 win. Cody Snelling and Hayden Coyne pitched for Brashear. The La Plata team won the JV game 4-0.
In the girls' game, the Lady Tigers jumped on the scoreboard to take a 1-0 lead in the first inning. Both teams went scoreless until the 5th when Novinger scored 4 times to take a 4-1 lead. The Tigers answered back in the top of the 6th with 3 runs to tie the game at 4-all. But Novinger scored another pair in the bottom of the 6th to pick up a 6-4 win. Meredith Thomas had 2 hits, with Shelby Salter, Abby McKim, and Sydney Slavin also having hits. Sierra Hines took the loss for the Lady Tigers.
In the boys' game, Nomdra jumped out to a 3-0 lead in the first. Brashear got on the board in the top of the second with a solo home run by Nick Thomas. Nomdra added 6 more runs in the bottom of the second on their way to a 14-3 win. For the Tigers, Cody Snelling had 2 hits. Nick Thomas, Luke Morrow, and Nick Bradshaw also having hits. Hayden Coyne and Nick Thomas pitched for Brashear.
In Wednesday night's softball game, the first 2 innings went quickly as Canton allowed only 2 base runs, while Brashear's Kristen Love retired the first 6 Canton batters in order. The settlement was broken in the third as Canton scored a run, but Brashear answered with a pair of runs. Also a solo inside the park home run by Sierra Hines. Both pitchers continued to dominate as Brashear held onto their slim 1-2 lead until Canton tied the game 2-2 in the top of the 7th. Brashear got the 3-2 lead in the bottom of the 8th as Ashley Watson singled to left. Nikki Moncrief and Meredith Thomas both bunted their way on to load the bases, and Shelby Salter drove in the winning run with a line drive into center field. Sierra Hines homered for Brashear. Shelby Salter had 2 hits, and Meredith Thomas, Kristen Love, Nikki Moncrief, and Ashley Watson also had hits. Kristen Love had a 1-hit game and got the win for Brashear. This week was testing week for all the students except the seniors. Testing for grades 8th through 11th started on Tuesday, but the 7th grade started testing on Monday. Testing only lasted 2 to 3 periods each day. The test consisted of English, math, science, social studies, and spelling.
Last Tuesday, the junior and senior high band started practicing to play in the parades October 12th at Hannibal, October 16th at Truman, and October 23rd at Mizzou at 9 a.m. This year's band includes 6 flags and 22 band members.
Last week, the Brashear Tigers traveled to La Plata for a double-header softball-baseball game. The Lady Tigers got on the scoreboard in the top of the first, with Meredith Thomas drawing a leadoff walk and Sierra Hines driving her in with a stand-up double. La Plata answered back by tying it up in the bottom of the 4th. The game remained tied throughout the end of regulation. With 2 outs in the top of the 5th, Meredith Thomas got on board with a single and stealing her way to second. Shelby Salter drove her in with a line drive to center, and the Lady Tigers held on for the 2-1 win. Shelby Salter had 2 hits for Brashear, with Meredith Thomas, Sierra Hines, Sydney Slavin, and Ashley Watson also having hits. Sierra Hines took the win for Brashear. The boys' game was rained out on Friday and was rescheduled for Monday at 4 p.m. La Plata jumped on the board, scoring in the first, second, and third innings. With the Tigers trailing 3-0, Nick Thomas started things off with the Tigers in the top of the 5th with a leadoff double. Jay Scudder hit a chopper handcuffing the shortstop, resulting in a low throw to first, allowing reached base and driving in Thomas. Scudder got in scoring position on a wild pitch. Then Nick Bradshaw hit a grounder to short, allowing Bradshaw to reach to first, while Scudder heading home to pull the Tigers within 1 run to make it 3-2. La Plata immediately answered back with a pair of runs in the bottom of the 5th, then iced the game with 3 runs in the 6th for an 8-3 win. Due because of wet field conditions, the softball-baseball doubleheader was moved to Atlanta on Tuesday. In the girls' game, the Lady Tigers jumped to a 9-0 lead in the bottom of the 1st, but Atlanta answered back with 6 runs in the top of the 2nd. It was all Brashear after that, with the Lady Tigers ending the game after 4 innings by a score of 24-9. Kristen Love took the win for the Lady Tigers. In the boys' game, Atlanta got on the scoreboard for a 2-0 lead in the top of the second by a 2-run home run. But Brashear answered with a 5-run outburst in the bottom of the fourth. Hayden Coyne started things off with a first one-out single. Jay Scudder followed with a double. Nick Bradshaw on an error, driving in Coyne. Luke Morrow singled. Nick reached on fielder's choice, driving in Scudder. Then Cody Snelling followed with a RBI double, and Adam Songer cleared the bases with a 2 RBI double. Atlanta pulled within 5-4 in the top of the sixth, but Brashear answered with an insurance run in the bottom of the sixth and got the win 6-5. Adam Songer had 3 hits for Brashear, Cody Snelling had 2 hits, and Nick Thomas, Hayden Coyne, Jay Scudder, Luke Morrow, and all had hits. Hayden Coyne was the winning pitcher, striking out 10.
Monday was picture day, everyone looking their best and having a great smile. Interstate Studio was here taking our school pictures as well as baseball and softball pictures.
On Wednesday, a blood drive was held at the Keller Building. It was sponsored by Brashear School. This year, there were no new first donors. The blood drive was a success by collecting 19 units of blood.
In Friday night's boys' game, Green City scored 3 runs in the first. The Tigers scored a single run in the first. Luke Morrow and David Walker singled in the second, and Adam Songer drove them in with a 3-run home run to put the Tigers ahead 4-3. Green City answered back, tying the game up at 3-all in the third. With the score tied 5-5 in the bottom of the sixth, Jay Scudder led off with an infield grounder, then stole second. Nick Gordon singled to drive in Scudder, putting the Tigers up 6-5. The Tigers couldn't hold the lead as Green City scored in the top of the seventh to tie the game at 6-all. The bottom of the eighth, Jay Scudder led off with an infield single and again stole second. Nick Bradshaw lined a ball into center to drive Scudder in, giving the Tigers the win over Green City 7-6. Cody Snelling went the distance for Brashear, striking out 13.
In the girls' Green City game, Brashear scored 3 times in the first, 8 times in the second, and 4 times in the third to defeat Green City 15-0 in 3 innings. Sierra Hines and Shelby Salter had 2 hits for Brashear, and Meredith Thomas and Abby McKim also having hits. Sierra Hines took the win for Brashear.
Monday night was senior night during the Marion County softball game. The 3 seniors, Stephanie Elsie, Abby McKim, and Cindy Slavin, were given balloons, candy, and signed softballs, for it was going to be their last year of softball.
On Monday night, the girls had a varsity-junior varsity doubleheader versus Marion County. The top half of the first, the Marion County batters were retired in order. The bottom of the first, the Lady Tigers, exploded with 7 runs, but Marion would answer back with a pair of runs in the top of the third and another in the fifth, but the Lady Tigers added 6 more runs to end the game 13-3 after 5 innings. For the Lady Tigers, Sierra Hines, Shelby Salter, and Abby McKim each had a pair of hits, and Katie Watson and Ashley Watson also having hits. Sierra Hines took the win for the Lady Tigers. In the junior varsity game, the Lady Tigers got the win 13-2.
The Brashear Lady Tigers traveled to Buckland on Tuesday night for their softball game. The Lady Tigers kicked off the first inning by putting 3 runs on the scoreboard. In the bottom of the first, the Lady Tigers didn't allow the first 3 batters on base by throwing out the first and third batters at first base and striking out the second batter. In the next 2 innings, it was all Brashear by adding 7 more runs on the board. which made the score 10-0, to get the win for Brashear in the third due to the weather. Abby McKim, Sierra Hines, Shelby Salter, Katie Watson, Meredith Thomas, Kristen Love, Chloe Sykes, Ashley Watson, and Nikki Moncrief all had hits for Brashear, and Kristen Love took the win for Brashear. Friday night, the Math and Science Club went to Truman to help research the katydids. Groups split up into pairs and went outside and listened for the sounds of katydids. On Tuesday, the Math and Science Club went out to Truman Farm to look through the observatory.
On Thursday night, the Tigers had a doubleheader softball baseball game. In the boys' game, Veer struck in the top of the first with 2 runs. Brashear answered with 3 runs in the bottom of the first, as Hayden Hausman drew a 1-out walk, Nick Thomas singled, Cody Snelling walked, Jay Scudder drove in Hausman, and Thomas with a fly ball to right. Revere's other runs came in the fourth, with 2-run home run. Meanwhile, Brashear scored 4 runs in the second as Adam Songer led off with a home run. Cody Snelling drew a 2-out walk, Coyne reached on an error, and Jay Scudder drove them in with a 2 RBI single. Nick Bradshaw then singled to bring in Scudder, and Brashear was up 7-1. Brashear tackled another 5 runs in the third as Songer walked, Hausman and Thomas singled, Snelling walked, Coyne doubled, and Scudder singled. Brashear added 3 runs in the fourth as Songer reached on an error, Hausman homered, and Cody Snelling doubled. The Tigers won the 5-inning game by a score of 15-3. On Thursday night, the Lady Tigers and Lady Cats continued a long history of hard-fought games. Brashear's last win was 12-2 victory in 2002. This year's game fit the mold perfectly as Brashear's Sierra Hines quickly went to work moving down batters. 17 straight batters were retired in the game before Brashear's Katie Smith, Meredith Thomas, and Shelby Salter drew a 2-out walk to load the bases in the top of the third. Shelbadon came through in clutch with striking out to end Brashear's threat, keeping the game tied 0-0. Meanwhile, Hines kept in her groove, retiring 19 straight Revere batters, when Revere singled in the top of the 7th. But Brashear got a run in the bottom of the 6th when Shelby Salter reached on an error and Abby McKim eventually brought her home with a sacrifice fly. Hines got the win, 1-0 for Brashear, striking out 8 and only surrendering 1 hit.
Brashear traveled to Schuyler County Saturday to face Scotland County in the first round of the Schuyler County Tournament. Brashear got on the scoreboard with a pair of runs in the first. Scotland County answered with 4 runs in the second, but Brashear answered with a pair of runs in the third to tie the score at 4-4. Brashear got the winning run in the bottom of the 7th as Meredith Thomas drew a 2-out walk and Shelby Salter drove her in with a fly ball to center to make the final score 5-4. Meredith Thomas, Shelby Salter, and Kristen Love had hits for Brashear. Kristen Love was the winning pitcher.
The Tiger baseball team traveled to Buckland Monday for a makeup baseball game. The teams had originally been scheduled to play last Friday as part of the softball-baseball doubleheader. The rain stayed away long enough for the softball game, but the baseball game was washed out. Brashear got off to a quick start as Adam Songer led off with a double. Hayden Hausman walked, Nick Thomas reached on an error, and Cody Snelling drew a walk. With 1 run already on board, Jay Scudder lined a ball into right center gap, driving 2 more runs. Hayden Coyne and Nick Bradshaw walked, David Walker reached on an error, and Adam Songer came to the plate for the second time in the inning, collecting a single. The Tigers' lead was 7-0 after their first at-bat. Brashear continued to pile up runs, taking a 13-1 lead after 2 innings on the way to a 29 win. Adam Songer led the Brashear offense attack with a single, double, and triple. Hayden Hausman, Hayden Coyne, and Cody Snelling had a pair of hits each, with Hayden Coyne hitting a home run. Jay Scudder, Nick Thomas, Curtis Blakely, Luke Morrow, and David Walker all had hits. Hayden Coyne was the winning pitcher for Cody Snelling, pitching 1 inning of relief.
Last Friday, the students had a picnic field day for the spring testing. The student council set up many different activities to do throughout the day, such as tire throw, water balloon toss, egg race, knockout dude, ninja, three-legged race, lifesaver race, and team relay. At the end of those activities, the students were told that Team 1 won. After the events outside, the students went inside to play a 7th, 12th grade dodgeball tournament with the seniors winning.
Wednesday morning was the Fall Renaissance Breakfast down at the Keller Building. To get on Renaissance, you had to have good attendance, grades, and citizenship. There are 3 different groups for Renaissance: gold, silver, and bronze. All 3 different groups have different requirements to get on. On gold, there were 5 people, silver there was 30, and bronze there was 18. Mr. Wilburn and Mr. Copeland served biscuits and gravy, and also orange juice and milk.
Brashear traveled to Green City for a non-conference varsity junior varsity softball doubleheader. In the varsity game, Brashear led 6-1 before Green City scored a pair in the bottom of the third, pull with inning 6-3. Brashear and Green City each scored twice more in the fifth before Brashear put the game away with 4 runs in the seventh to win 12-5. Abby McKim had 4 hits for Brashear. Kristen Love was the winning pitcher. Green City won the junior varsity game 4-3.
The Brashear Lady Tigers put 8 runs on the scoreboard in the top of the first and never looked back in the 20-0 Tri-County Conference win over Macon County. For Brashear, Sierra Hines and Sydney Slavin had 2 hits each in the third inning game. Sierra Hines picked up the win. Brashear also won the junior varsity game by a score of 9-6.
Brashear wins first round district softball game. Twice the Lady Tigers had faced Novinger this season, and twice Brashear came out on the losing end. If the Lady Tigers had any postseason aspirations, the first hurdle was finding a way to defeat Novinger. In Wednesday night's district softball game, both teams managed to get runners aboard but couldn't score them until Brashear broke through in the bottom of the third with 4 runs. Stephanie Elsie reached on an error, Meredith Thomas walked, Shelby Salter reached in next, then Sierra Hines singled in a pair of runs. Abby McKim hit a sacrifice fly and Brashear was up 4-0. Novinger finally responded with 5 runs in the top of the 5th to take a 5-4 lead, but Brashear tied the game again in the bottom of the 5th as Shelby Salter singled and Sierra Hines drove her in. Novinger scored 3 more in the top of the 6th to make the score 8-5. Brashear began their 1-out rally in the bottom of the 7th. Meredith Thomas, Shelby Salter, Sierra Hines, Abby McKim, and Katie Watson all singled. Kristen Love walked. The Sydney Slavin singled to drive in the winning run in a 9-8 Brashear win. Sierra Hines had 3 hits for Brashear. Shelby Salter and Katie Watson had 2 hits each, and Meredith Thomas, Abby McKim, and Sydney Slavin each had hits. Sierra Hines was the winning pitcher with 10 strikeouts.
On Wednesday, the Brashear marching band members loaded up on a bus at 12:30 to travel to the annual Hannibal Band Day Parade. To participate with 35 other marching bands, bands marched down the downtown streets of Hannibal.
Brashear vs. North Shelby in softball district semifinals. The Brashear Lady Tigers faced the North Shelby Lady Raiders Thursday night in the district semifinals. North Shelby turned leadoff doubles in the first and second innings and a one-out double in the third into single runs in each of the first 3 innings to take a 3-0 lead. Meanwhile, Brashear sent only the minimum number of batters to the plate until Stephanie Elsie singled with 2 outs in the third. Brashear held North Shelby scoreless in the fourth, but the Lady Raiders scored 2 more in the fifth and 3 in the sixth as Brashear piled up 6 errors. Meanwhile, the Lady Tigers batters were retired in order from the fourth inning on, giving North Shelby a win 8-0. Stephanie Elsie had Brashear's lone hit. Sierra Hines took the loss for Brashear, striking out 9. Brashear finished their season with a 14-4 record.
During the Truman State University Homecoming Parade, the Brashear band went and attended the second parade Saturday morning, with one parade left to attend at Mizzou. The Brashear band has 25 members, 6 co-guard, with Andy Clarkson and Madeline Potter carrying the band.
For the Tri-County Conference Choir. On Monday, the Tri-County Conference Choir traveled to La Plata, Atlanta, and Brevier. From Brashear, Gabe Thomas, Rose Cloud, Blake Flum, Allie Garrett, Abigail Kirby, and Kylie Williams attended and performed.
Green City held their annual mini tournament Thursday and Friday nights. In the first round action, the Brashear girls took on La Plata. La Plata started out strong, the first half scoring 8 in the first and 13 points in the second to take a 21-4 halftime. The Brashear defense did a better job of containing the Plata's scoring in the second half, holding them to 5 in the third and 2 in the fourth quarter. Brashear still couldn't generate enough offense to get back into the game, and the Plata claimed a 28-8 win. For Brashear, Skylar Hausman scored 4, Abigail Kirby and Mandy Taylor with 2.
The Brashear boys also faced La Plata in Thursday night's first round action. Like in the girls' game, La Plata got off to a quick start offensively and led 35-10 at halftime. Brashear also scored another 10 points in the second half, falling to La Plata 54-20. For Brashear, Luke Morrow had 8 points, Tristan Smith had 4, Marcus Jefferson with 3, Chance Hill and Jacob Rees with 2, and Tyler Finley with 1. Friday night's girls' third-place game, Brashear met Novinger. Both teams were a little slow getting out of the gate, with Brashear leading 4-2 after the first quarter of play and 10-4 at halftime. Despite pulling away for a time in the second half, Brashear couldn't shake Novinger, who made a furious run in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, Novinger's run came up short, and Brashear held on for a 25-21 win. For Brashear, Alexa Acton had 7 points, Ashley Moncrief, Nikki Moncrief, and Abigail Wheeler had 4, Allison Thompson, Skylar Hausman, and Audrey DeBee had 2 points. In the boys' third-place game, Green City quickly jumped out to a lead, but Brashear battled back to trail only 12-8 after the first quarter and 19-12 at halftime. Green City gradually pulled away during the second half and claimed third place with a win 40-23. For Brashear, Luke Morrow scored 6, Gabe Thomas scored 5, Chance Hill scored 4, Tristan Smith, Sam Smith, Gus Mihaljevic and Marcus Jefferson scored 2. In Monday night's girls' game, Brashear led a slim 2-point lead through much of the first quarter before Atlanta pulled ahead 7-5, then got hot to take a 13-5 lead into halftime. Brashear was held scoreless again in the third after a scoreless second quarter, falling to Atlanta 28-10. For Brashear, Allison Thompson had 4 points, Abby Kirby, Ashley Moncrief had 2 points, and Courtney Arnold and Skylar Hausman had 1 point. The Brashear Tigers scored the first bucket in the boys' game, but the first quarter was all Atlanta after that as the Hornets pushed the pace to take a 22-6 lead after first quarter. Both offenses sputtered some in the second quarter, and the Hornets took a 30-10 lead in the locker room. The Hornets continued their domination in the second half, rolling to a 46-18 win. For Brashear, Chance Hill had 7 points, Jacob Reeves had 3 points, Patrick Jacobson, Tristan Smith, Luke Morrow, and Marcus Jefferson had 2 points.
Thursday, before the students got out at 12:45, 7th through 12th grades went up to the gym for map rewards. To get a map reward, you had to have proficient or advanced on map tests or into course tests last year. Mrs. Grissom read off all the names who got rewards. After all the rewards were handed out, they took a group picture. On Saturday morning, the Brashear Tiger Marching Band took a bus down to Columbia for the Mizzou Homecoming Parade. 28 members, including the color guard, were in the parade. There were 15 other bands in the parade, including Brashear. The Brashear Drumline got Best Drumline. For the second year in a row, Chloe Sykes got Best Drum Major at the parade. Also, the whole Brashear Marching Band got second place in the parade. Monday was the start of Red Ribbon Week, and the National Guard was at the school for the day. They brought an inflatable obstacle course and talked about some ways to have fun and that you don't need to go out and do drugs to have a good time. Every class from kindergarten to 12th grade went to the gym for a half an hour to go through the course. The classes were split up into teams to race each other for fun. After they raced each other a few times, they could do individual races to see who could win. Red Ribbon Week is a normal event at the school every year to talk about drug awareness.
On Monday night, the FBLA met for their annual fall meeting. The theme this year was a murder mystery. People dressed up like famous actors that they were selling. After the meeting, everyone enjoyed some pizza and drinks.
The Leuplata Bulldogs visited the Brashear Tigers Tuesday night for a pair of Tri-County Conference basketball games. The Leuplata girls scored the first 4 points of the game, but the teams traded leads after that for the rest of the first half, with the Leuplata leading 12-11 at halftime. The second half began with a Brashear basket, and the lead changed hands until Brashear took a 14-17 lead midway through the third quarter. The Leuplata answered with an 8-point run and held on to the lead throughout the fourth quarter to pick up a 26-23 win. For Brashear, Ashley Moncrief and Allison Thompson scored 7, Skylar Hausman scored 4, Alexa Acton scored 3, and Abigail Kirby scored 2.
In the boys' game, Leuplata used an aggressive defense to reel off 27-0 first quarter run and lead 29-6 at the end of the quarter. The Bulldogs led 36-9 at halftime, with Leuplata winning 58-14. Jacob Reeves scored 11, and Gus Mihaljevic scored 3.
The Brashear Tigers visited the Green City Gophers Friday night for a Tri-County Conference basketball game. Green City taking a 6-2 lead after the first quarter and led 13-6 at halftime. Brashear continued to struggle offensively in the second half. Green City pulled away for a 24-9 win. For Brashear, Rachel Heimer scoring 4, Skylar Hausman and Allison Garrett 2 each, and Allison Thompson 1 point. The Brashear boys got off to a quick start and led 9-5 after the first quarter, but Green City came storming back in the second quarter to take a 27-15 lead into the halftime. Green City continued their run in the second half and pulled away for a 43-25 win. For Brashear, Jacob Reeves scoring 7, Luke Morrow 5, Patrick Johnson 3, Chance Hill 3, Gabe Thomas 3, Brody Hendricks 2, Tristan Smith 2.
The Revere Wildcats visited the Brashear Tigers Tuesday night for a pair of Tri-County Conference basketball games. In the first quarter of the girls' game, neither team could find the range, and Revere ended up leading 3 free throws to 1 free throw. Things turned around in the second quarter as both teams found the range and traded baskets, with the game being tied 11-11 at halftime. It was a close game in the second half, with neither team able to gain more than a 2-point advantage until Brashear sank a pair of free throws to take a 3-point lead a minute into the fourth quarter. Brashear expanded the lead to 7 points before Revere made a run in the last 2 minutes. Revere closed the gap to a 3-point before Brashear answered and held on for a 29-22 win. Nikki Moncrief and Allison Thompson each scored 8 for Brashear. Ashley Moncrief had 7, and Alexa Acton scored 6 points. In the boys' game, Revere scored 8 points in the first minute on their way to a 22-0 lead after first quarter. Brashear finally got on the scoreboard in the second quarter, but Revere extended their lead to a 32-6 at halftime. Revere continued to pressure during the third quarter, pushing their lead to a 51-8 on the way to a 51-12 win. Luke Morrow scored 5 points for Brashear, Marcus Jefferson added 4, Sam Smith had 2, and Brody Hendricks scored 1 point.
The Mary Immaculate 7th and 8th grade girls basketball team came to Brashear Wednesday night. The visiting Lady Hawks had the hot hand in the first half to put Mary Immaculate up 24-6 at halftime. Brashear had the better second half, outscoring their opponent 14-8, but still left them short, and Mary Immaculate came to a 32-20 win. For Brashear, Allison Thompson had 8 points, Abigail Kirby and Audrey DeBee had 4, and Allie Garrett and Rachel Heimer had 2 points.
On Thursday, the Student Council held a variety show in the gym. There were 15 different acts in the show. There were people dancing, singing, and little skits. There were a little more than half that had students in the acts, and even the teachers were in some of the acts. All the donations went to Student Council to help out class field trips, club trips, and other trips.
Friday night, the Brashear Tigers visited the conference rival Buckland Bulldogs. The girls' game was close through the first half, with Buckland leading 8-7 at the end of the first quarter, and Brashear leading 15-14 at halftime, with Brashear falling 35-22. Ashley Moncrief and Alexa Acton each scored 6 points for Brashear. Allison Thompson added 4, and Skylar Hausman and Allison Garrett each had 3 points. The Buckland boys jumped out to an 11-5 lead after the first quarter, but Brashear closed the gap to a 15-13 at halftime. The game continued to be close, with Brashear down by only a bucket at 25-23 at the end of the third quarter. but Buckland pulled away in the final frame to win 43-32. Luke Morrow scored 13 points for Brashear, with Jacob Reeves adding 11. Chance Hill had 4, Gabe Thomas had 3, and Sam Smith scored 1 point.
On Monday night, Brashear traveled to Macon County for a junior high basketball game. In the girls' game, Macon County got off to a quick start with a 37-4 going into halftime. Brashear lost 65-11. For Brashear, Nikki Moncrief scored 4 points, Allison Thompson had 3, and Ashley Moncrief and Alexa Acton scored 2 points each. In the boys' game, Macon County got off to a similar fast start, leading 33-13 at halftime. Brashear took the loss, falling 52-19. Luke Morrow scored 6 points for Brashear. Brody Hendricks had 4, Sam Smith and Jacob Reeves had 3 each, Patrick Jacobson had 2, and Marcus Jefferson scored 1 point.
On Tuesday night, Novinger visited Brashear. In the girls' game, Novinger got off to a quick start with a score of 5-2 in the first quarter and a 7-6 lead going into halftime. Brashear rallied back in the second half to gain a 18-11 win over Novinger. For Brashear, Ashley Moncrief scored 7, Alexa Acton scored 6, Allison Thompson scored 4, and Mandy Taylor scored 1.
In the boys' game, Novinger got off to another quick start, leading 23-5 after the first quarter and 46-5 going into the halftime. In the second half, Novinger held their lead and got away with a 64-22 win. For the Brashear, Jacob Reeves scored 14, and Brody Hendricks, Tristan Smith, Luke Morrow, and Marcus Jefferson scored 2 points each.
Congratulations to Rose Cloud for being in district choir down at Moberly on Saturday. There were 2 different choir groups, and altogether there were about 560 people. They practiced all morning, then performed that night to the public.
On Wednesday, November 10th, Spanish Club took a trip to St. Louis and attended the Dances and Flavors of Spain event. The members of Spanish Club watched several different dances as well as learning how to dance them. They also tried many different types of authentic Spanish foods.
Thursday night's girls' game at Lynn County was a defensive battle as Brashear led 2-0 after first quarter. With the host Lady Mustangs leading 7-6 at halftime, Brashear had managed to take a 10-9 lead after 3 quarters, but Lynn County outscored Brashear 7-2 in the final quarter to win 16-12. For Brashear, Ashley Moncrief and Skylar Hausman scored 4 points each. Nikki Moncrief and Allison Thompson scored 2 points each.
In the boys' contest, the two teams were evenly matched in the first quarter, with Lynn County holding a slim 8-6 lead. But the host Mustangs outscored Brashear 13-3 in the second quarter to take a 21-9 halftime lead. Lynn County led 26-13 after 3 quarters, but Brashear closed to within 5 in the fourth quarter before Lynn County put the game away 39-28. Marcus Jefferson led Brashear's scores with 9 points. Jacob Reeves added 7. Luke Morrow and Gabe Thomas had 4 each, and Brody Hendricks and Chance Hill scored 2 points each.
On Tuesday night at the Atlanta tournament, the Brashear girls were coming into the tournament ranked 8th. They played Macon County in the first round game. At the first half, Brashear was down 17-8. In the second half, Brashear was still behind and took a loss of 35-18. For Brashear, Ashley Moncrief scored 5, Allison Thompson had 4, Skylar Hausman and Rachel Heimer had 3 points each. Alexa Acton had 2, and Mandy Taylor had 1 point.
On Tuesday night, the Brashear boys played first seed Revere. In the first quarter, Revere got off to a quick lead. At the end of the first half, Revere led Brashear 33-4. In the third quarter, Brashear came back with 13 points, but in the fourth quarter, Brashear fell 17-43. The final score was 20-52. Jacob Reeves led Brashear with 12 points. Brody Hendricks had 3 points, and Chance Hill, Sam Smith, and Luke Morrow had 2 points each. On Monday night, the elementary kicked off reading week. The elementary does this every year to get kids to have fun with reading. They started off the night with a dinner for everyone who came, and then there was a mystery game which all the elementary teachers were different characters, and the people who were there had to go around to the classrooms and get clues from the teachers to solve the mystery. Even the book fair was open for the kids and their parents to buy some fun new books to read.
On Tuesday, November 16th, the Spanish Club took a trip to Truman State University for the Language Festival. There were also 5 other schools there. We got to learn 9 out of the 12 languages: French, Spanish, Dutch, German, Chinese, Japanese, Portuguese, Russian, and Greek while we were there. The Spanish Club capped off the day with yummy Mexican food at La Fuente.
Thursday night, the Brashear Gym was filled with laughter as donkey basketball came to town. A crowd of several hundred spectators got to watch faculty, students, and community members attempt to play basketball from the backs of donkeys. This Student Council fundraiser also featured a Kiss a Donkey contest where students voted with their donations to select a lucky winner who had to kiss a donkey. Stephanie Elsie and Shandy March were the winners. With recent massive state budget cuts, our school has had to cut funding for educational field trips. The BHS Student Council has been working to raise money to fund educational activities and raised around $1,000.
The Brashear girls played Revere in the consolation semifinals Thursday night. The teams battled to a 4-4 tie after the first quarter. Revere jumped out to a 7-point lead early in the second quarter, but Brashear stormed back to take a 12-11 lead into halftime. Brashear extended their lead to 20-15 after 3 quarters and led by 7 at 1 point in the fourth. Revere battled back to pull within 1 point late, but Brashear held on for a 24-23 win. Allison Thompson and Skylar Hausman were in double figures for Brashear with 12 and 10 points, and Nikki Moncrief scored 2 points.
The Brashear boys faced Atlanta in a consolation semifinal game Thursday. Atlanta led 11-4 after 1 quarter and 25-8 at halftime. Brashear had their best quarter, scoring 9 points in the third, but Atlanta continued to outscore Brashear and took the win 48-24. For Brashear, Brody Hendricks scored 7 points, Tristan Smith added 6, Luke Morrow had 4, Patrick Jockerson had 3, and Gabe Thomas and Jake Reeves scored 2 points each.
Friday night began with the girls' consolation game between Brashear and Green City. The Lady Tigers of Brashear led 4-3 after 1 quarter, but Green City took 15-11 lead into the locker room. The third quarter was a defensive struggle as Brashear close to within 15-13. Green City outscored the Lady Tigers 9-6 in the final quarter to win consolation 24-19 for Brashear. Ashley Moncrief scored 10 points. Allison Thompson scored 4. Nikki Moncrief and Skylar Hausman had 2 points each. Alexa Acton scored 1 point.
On Tuesday night, Mary Mack visited Brashear for a junior high basketball. The Brashear Lady Tigers took a 6-4 lead after the first quarter, but were held scoreless in the second quarter as Mary Immaculate took an 18-6 lead into halftime. The Lady Hawks ran their lead to 32-10 after 3 quarters and beat Brashear by a final score of 36-17. For Brashear, Rachel Heimer scored 4 points, Abigail Hall had 3, and Abigail Kirby, Sydney Sykes, Allison Thompson, Allie Garrett, and Audrey B scored 2 points each.
The Bashir boys played an intra-squad scrimmage for the nightcap. The white team defeated the black team 36-18. Chance Hill scored 10 points. Brody Hendricks and Jacob Reeves each scored 9. Marcus Jefferson had 8. Patrick Jockerson scored 6. Tristan Smith had 4. And Tyler Finley, Luke Morrow, Gabe Thomas, and Sam Smith scored 2 points each.
The Bashir After Prom took a few days to make homemade cinnamon rolls to raise money for juniors and seniors to get at after prom. The juniors and seniors sold a set amount of cinnamon rolls. After the sale was over, the total number of cinnamon rolls were over 300 dozen that included half dozens too. The people who helped make them were the parents and some juniors and seniors too.
On Monday night, our varsity teams kicked off their season at the annual Novinger tournament. The Bashir Lady Tigers jumped out to an early 9-0 lead and were on top 9-3 at the end of the first quarter. Bashir led 18-11 at half. Bashir increased their lead to 28-14 after 3 quarters and won the game 37-24. Shelby Salter scored 13 points for Bashir. Meredith Thomas added 9. Stephanie Elsie had 6. Sydney Slavin had 4. Katie Smith and Olivia Thompson had 2 each, and Miranda Creason scored 1 point.
In the Bashir versus Novinger boys game, both teams came out with aggressive defense, leading to little scoring and numerous turnovers. Bashir led 5-4 after first quarter, with Novinger taking an 11-8 lead into halftime. Novinger started to range in the second half. They also converted 14 second-half free throws to take a 26-15 lead after third quarter on their way to a 47-23 win. For Bashir, Hayden Howden scored 7 points, Cody Snelling and Nick Thomas had 4 points each. Taryn Treasure and Zach Reese had 3, and Dylan Redding scored 2 points.
On Wednesday night, the Bashir boys traveled back to Novinger to play against Brevier. Both teams came out to a good start. After the first quarter, Bashir was leading 9-8. Heading into halftime, Bashir fell back and was down 25-30. In the second half, Brevier kept up with Bashir on the scoring end. Bashir came home with the win though with a score of 57-54. Bashir boys will now play Friday night at 7 for the consolation game against Milan.
With the Christmas season around the corner, a group of volunteers from the Bashir NHS went to ring bells at Hy-Vee for the Salvation Army. The NHS has done this in the past and try to do it each year.
On Tuesday, we had a guest speaker from Robert Morris University, and we had a presentation that taught us how to not ruin our image, not putting bad pictures up on our web pages or rude comments on someone else's page. Also, how colleges and universities look at our networking pages, and they can deny you from their college or university. Also, How in 9 months social networking got around and how many people now have social networking pages.
Last Thursday night, the Brashear Lady Tigers faced off against the Scotland County Lady Tigers in a championship semifinals game. The top-seeded Scotland County girls had an 11-5 lead after the first quarter and scored 18 points in the second quarter to take a 29-10 lead into halftime. Scotland County extended their lead to 46-19 after 3 quarters and won by a margin of 56-23. For Brashear, Meredith Thomas scored 6 points, Stephanie Elsie and Abby McKim had 5 each, Miranda Creason, Katie Smith, and Sydney Slavin scored 2 points each, Shelby Salter scored 1 point. Last Friday night, the Brashear boys and girls both returned back to Nottingham to play their final games in the tournament. The Brashear boys faced Milan for the consolation game. Brashear got off to a good start with a score of 14-10 after the first quarter, but fell short at halftime with a score of 24-21. The boys couldn't keep up with Milan in the second half and were down 38-24 after the third quarter. Milan went home with the win and the consolation trophy with a score of 56-37. For Brashear, Taryn Treasure led the scoring with 8 points, Nick Thomas had 7 points, Dylan Redding and Adam Songer added 6 points, Jay Scudder had 4, and Zach Reeves, Cody Snelling added 3 points.
Last Friday night, the Brashear Lady Tigers faced Milan for the third place game. In the first quarter, Milan led 12-9. Going into halftime, Milan kept the lead at 27-18. In the third quarter, the Lady Tigers outscored the Wildcats 15-14. In the fourth quarter, the Lady Tigers tied up the score at 54. Going into overtime, Milan got on the scoreboard first, scoring 56-54. But the Lady Tigers answered back to tie it back up at 56. The Tigers managed to take the lead 57-56. The Wildcats answered back with 2 more points for the win, with the score of 58-57. For Brashear, Meredith Thomas led the Tigers with 24 points, Abby McKim led 10, Shelby Salter and Sydney Slavin had 9, Stephanie Elsie had 3, and Katie Smith had 1 point.
The Lynn County Mustangs visited Brashear Tuesday night for a Tri-County Conference basketball doubleheader. The Brashear Lady Tigers started the game with an 18-1 run and led Lynn County 18-5 at the end of the first quarter. Lynn County recovered their composure in the second quarter and matched Brashear's scoring, leaving the Brashear lead at 26-13 at halftime. Brashear outscored Lynn County again in the second half, extending their lead to 36-20 after 3 quarters and winning by a score of 49-29. Stephanie Elsie and Meredith Thomas led the Brashear attack with 11 points each. Shelby Salter and Sydney Slavin each had 8, Abby McKim had 6, Olivia Thompson had 3, and Katie Smith scored 2 points. In the boys' game, it was Lynn County that did the early damage, starting out with a 10-2 run and finishing the first quarter with a 17-9 lead. The host Tigers pulled within 30-27 at halftime, and the game was tied 36-36 after 3 quarters of play. Lynn County scored their only bucket of the fourth quarter 10 seconds into the quarter, and Brashear was forced to play catch-up the rest of the way. Lynn County used 12 out of the 13 free throws to maintain their lead, and led 44-40 when Jay Scudder scored to pull the Tigers within 2. Cody Snelling's three-pointer with 17 seconds left pulled Brashear within 1 at 47-48, but a foul put Lynn County on the line for another pair of free throws to lead 50-47. Brashear got the ball down the court, but Nick Thomas's last 3-point shot missed the mark, and Lynn County held on for the 50-47 win. Hayden Hausman and Cody Snelling each scored 10 points for Brashear. Nick Thomas chipped in 9, Zach Reeves added 7, Jay Scudder had 5, and Dylan Redding, Adam Songer, and Taryn Treasure scored 2 points each.
Over the weekend, Brashear saw its first winter storm, with snow and very cold temperatures. And because of more bad weather, we had our first snow day on Thursday. That day will be made up on January 17th. To get details of snow routes and school being off, please listen to KRXL, KIRX, KTUF, KMEM, KLIT, KRES, KWIX, KIRK, KZBK, KZZT, KLIT, KTVO, KHQA, and WGEM.
On Monday night, the BHS Music Department held their annual Christmas concert. Each of the elementary classes plus the elementary bands performed along with the high school choir, junior high, and high school band. There were also several vocal solos as well. The art department had many of the elementary art classes' works on display for the concert.
On Tuesday night, the boys and girls varsity basketball teams traveled to La Plata for a conference doubleheader game. In the girls' game, first quarter was a defensive battle with Brashear leading 7-6, but a bucket would put La Plata back on top, leading 8-7 at the end of the first. It was all La Plata after that. Going into the locker room, La Plata was leading 23-11. End of the third was 34-17, with La Plata winning 44-20. For Brashear, Shelby Salter led with 6 points. Stephanie Elsie and Abby McKim added 4 each. Miranda Creaston and Sydney Slavin had 2 each. Katie Smith and Meredith Thomas had 1 point each.
In the boys' game, first quarter was all La Plata. La Plata had 23 while holding Brashear to 4 free throws. Going into halftime, La Plata was leading 50-15. After the third quarter, the score was 75-21, with La Plata winning 84-27. For Brashear, Jay Scudder led with 7 points. Hayden Hausman had 6. Joseph Woods added 5. Adam Songard, Nick Thomas, and Zach Reeves had 3 points each.